At this pivotal time in humanity's evolution, we are beginning to remember our organic technology. A technology, when used correctly, can create an experience that the majority of the people the world over want to live. It is time to use this technology consciously for our own benefit and healing, and no longer unconsciously for our own demise. We are divine creators, creating both our own personal experience and our collective experience moment to moment. We invite you to join us as we reawaken this technology through experiment and experience our power to create and manifest. Become part of the 3%.
Hello, everyone. Lisa Harrison here. Good morning, good afternoon, good middle of the night, whatever it happens to be. In my case, middle of the night. Wow, we're back. We have missed a couple of shows due to having some amazing adventures. So it's lovely to be back with you all. And please excuse me if I am sounding delirious, because I kind of am. It is, as I said, as the middle of the night. No sleep last night, journeying back from the Sahara Desert, which was an amazing experience, which we will talk about in the second hour. In the first hour, we have a special guest with us, Darryl Anka. And I want to welcome Darryl.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, Darryl. How are you?
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely to be here.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. I deeply appreciate you having me on the show.
And we'll just bring out our regular crew members here. We've got Chris holding the fort for us so beautifully over the last few shows from Melbourne.
Hi, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever. Glad to be on again. Glad the guys are back, actually. It's good to have some company again.
You haven't been alone, though.
No, look, I've had some really good wingmen and wing ladies, and we actually had quite a lot of fun. It was good. But
yeah, people have been enjoying what you've been doing. So.
Yeah, it's good fun. But it is good to have you guys back on the show, because it's all about opinion and all about experiences. So here we are again.
Here we are again. And we have Bobby.
Yep, I'm here, Lisa. Welcome, everyone. And what an amazing trip. Oh, thank you, everyone who helped and donated and helping me get out here. I am ever so grateful. And it's been like the magical mystery tour. Hello, Lisa?
Guys, you are going to get... I'm telling you, you'll be blown away when we give you an update on what's been going on with Bob lately. So stay tuned. Now, we have Dee. Where the hell is Dee?
Look, I'll have to bring her in, so just hang on a minute while I pull her out of my contacts.
She should be physically... We're all physically in the same space. I've had to come upstairs so that we don't interfere with each other's audios. Bob's downstairs. Dee's probably next door at Heather's. So
okay.
I don't know.
She should be there. She was actually on the board. There she goes. Hello, Dee.
Hello.
Where are you situated right now?
I'm about to head over to your house. I didn't realize what time it was.
Get over here, go.
Give me 2 seconds. I'll hang up and I'll call back in, and it's like give me 3 minutes to run down the street.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
This is all very strange. Normally we're spread out all over the world, and suddenly we're half of us are in the same place. It's quite funny. Darryl.
Yes.
Most of our audience is well aware of who you are and what you do and who Bashar is and Char's many talks and his message over the years. But for those who don't, can you just give a brief introduction for us?
Well, very, very briefly, about 40 years ago, I had two very close broad daylight UFO sightings over Los Angeles, about 150 feet the first time, about 70 feet away the second time, both times an equilateral triangular black craft about 30 feet on its side. That started me investigating all sorts of things about UFOs and channeling and other metaphysical subjects. And many years after the sightings, I was introduced to a channel who was doing seminars, and eventually the entity coming through that channel offered to teach a channeling class that I went into as part of my research, not assuming I was going to become a channel. But one thing led to another, and I received a telepathic communication from Bashar and his people, and a memory came back of having made an agreement to do this with him in this life. And also I understood at that moment that the UFOs had been shown to me on purpose to get me to start moving in the direction I needed to move, so that by the time it came time to do the channeling with him, I would be ready. And I've been doing that now for 30 years.
So who is Bashar?
Bashar,
where does he come from?
Well, okay, he presents himself as an extraterrestrial consciousness from another world. In their ancient language, they call their world Esasani. It's in a parallel reality, so it's not like their reality is visible to us unless we were to make a shift in our frequency to their particular reality. But they live on a world like we do similarly, although they're much more advanced. Now, the one thing I really do always like to put out there for people who are new to this is that there's absolutely nothing about this that insists that you have to believe that Bashar is really an extraterrestrial being. I have no way of proving it. It could be another aspect of my own consciousness, but it does come through as if it is an autonomous being from another world, and that what's going on here is a telepathic connection that allows my brain to act, in a sense, as a translation device into our language for his thoughts. So that's the way we allow it to come through. Bashar has delivered many interesting messages over the years about what kind of ways we can make changes on this planet in a positive sense. And a lot of this information, in many ways, is, from his point of view, a prelude to contact, a preparation for actually having physical contact with their civilization and other civilizations eventually in the years to come.
Eventually in the years to come. Can we narrow that down?
Well, Bashar has given a probability window of when he believes it's likely that open contact may start occurring between our civilization and other civilizations. And he has said that as far as he can perceive the energy at this particular moment, the most likely window is between 2025 and 2033, when the first beginnings of open contact will occur. Now, he's saying that of course, depends on changes being made on the Earth, but he feels at the moment that somewhere in that window is the most probable time in which that can begin to happen. That doesn't necessarily mean that UFOs will be landing everywhere all at once, but the beginnings of open contact may be happening then, and the people of Earth will be aware of that as a fact during that window, according to Bashar.
Is that window time frame, is that been a consistent hypothesis of his over the years, or is it always changing based on current data?
It has not changed much over the last several years. The only thing he's really added is that he has said that sometime between 2015 and 2017, we might discover something on our own that would prove the existence of some form of extraterrestrial life as being a fact. And once we discover that, it will change our mindset and make us realize that we are definitely not alone, and that will help accelerate us toward the time when we can be open to receiving other beings from other civilizations in the window that I've already given.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to say that when we were, out in the desert, we all laid out on the sand dunes and looked up at the stars, the amazing stars in the middle of the desert there, and we saw quite the light show. It was a case of, oh, there's one. There's one. Oh, look at that one. Oh, there's it was extraordinary. There were, stars, in inverted commas, moving all over the sky.
Yeah, sometimes there will be definitely a lot of activity. Now, sometimes it's also a matter of a person's perceptive ability, because there are there are things going on. There are ships moving to and fro all the time, and we may not always be able to see them. So sometimes it's not even necessarily a matter that they're showing themselves to us. It may simply be a matter that our senses are expanding and we're capable of perceiving what's always been there but was heretofore invisible. So that may have more to do with your ability to stretch your senses even sometimes than it has to do with them deliberately revealing themselves to you.
Well, that actually makes perfect sense based on the state of consciousness we were all in at that time.
Right.
Would you say that, Bob?
We were in a state, that's for sure.
We
were certainly in a state.
Will we, Bob?
Well, I'll tell you, and maybe you could speak to this, Darryl.
Mm-hmm.
As we got closer and closer to the desert, and I know we weren't supposed to talk this till the second hour, but it's just a question. Our physical eye colors changed.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of us.
Yeah. That to me would donate that you're working on a different frequency level. And since everything is all about frequency, I mean, there are many, many things that exist around us all the time that are just invisible because they're on a different frequency, in much the way that a television program on one channel is on a different frequency from one that you maybe watch in a moment. But if you change channel, if you change frequency, and obviously you start picking up on the other program. And I think that in this day and age, where we're expanding our consciousness, we're exploring these ideas, that many times is enough to change our frequency sufficiently that it makes things that we couldn't see before suddenly become visible. So it certainly could be when you see physical changes like that, when you start perceiving things differently in physical reality, space and time and physical reality becomes a little more malleable, more flexible, reflective in a different way. All of those could be symptoms of a frequency change that may make it easier for you to perceive things that you couldn't perceive before.
Well, you probably can't tell from my Skype picture, but I'm a black man, and my eyes turned almost completely blue.
Cool. That's very cool.
We had to take pictures just to make sure we weren't imagining it, but sure enough, they're there.
Good. That's good. That's a good sign. I'm hearing more and more of these kinds of symptoms or physical manifestations were when people go into these altered states. There seems to be more and more acceleration of many different kinds of physical manifestations, clearly demonstrating the altered state rather than it remaining internal. I think it's now becoming also an external reflection.
Darryl, you're breaking up quite a bit there.
Sorry.
Do you think that's okay? Do you think is your connection okay, or do you think it's at our end, Chris?
I can't. Nothing is happening on my end. You all sound fine to me.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how clean the stream is. Yeah, he says the stream's a bit broken up. Can we get Dee just to drop off at the moment, just to take up a little less bandwidth, and we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
I'll just hang that up. Sorry about that, Dee. Okay, let's continue, see if it clears up a bit.
Just in what I wanted to add in regards to this eye colour business and the other physical changes that were happening. It started with me before we left the desert, sort of in the 2 or 3 days leading up to it. And for everybody, the closer we got to our destination, and while we were there, the changes were remarkable. And I was just putting some thought to this and came to the conclusion that it wasn't so much the location having an effect on us, but it was our collective intent on what we were going to do in that location. And as we got closer to it, our vibration continued to rise with the anticipation and the knowing of the intention that we'd already set.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Because remember that in reality there is no external location. It's all within your consciousness.
That's it.
So that's just a reflection, even though it may seem external. That's just a reflection of the changes you're making within your own consciousness, anyway.
And a lot of the people who are listening, who have been listening to this particular show for some time, will know that we've often talked about the eyes being projectors, not receivers. And I could literally feel the energy projecting out of my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a first. It's died down a bit now since we came home, and I'm going to have to pay some energy into it consciously.
Well, these things will also fluctuate based on, whatever environmental changes you're making, which goes hand in hand with whatever changes you're making within yourself. But I think that's a natural thing, because sometimes it can also just be an opportunity to apply the energy state that you were in there to where you are now, and sort of amp that locational idea up to be something more similar to where you used to be.
Have you noticed physical changes within yourself? I mean, you say you've been doing this for 40 years.
30 years.
Or
yeah.
30 years.
Definitely.
Because you don't look that much older than that.
Yeah, I'm 61.
Well, wow.
And definitely being in the channeling state definitely collapses time quite a bit. When I'm channeling, I only experience about 1/3 to 1/2 of the time that actually passes. If I have to go in, if I have to guess how much time has passed when I come out of the channeling, it always only feels like about 1/2 to 1/3 of the time. And I actually do think that when you're in that kind of a state, when you're in the present, more and more and more, you live more in the present, which certainly happens in a channeling state, you actually do not age as much. You actually only age the amount of time you actually feel has passed. That's why Bashar talks about how important it is to live in the present and do what you love to do and act on your passion, because when you're truly living in that moment and it seems like 3 hours has gone by in 5 minutes, he's basically saying that if it actually literally only felt like 5 minutes to you, you probably actually have only aged about 5 minutes, even though everyone else around you may have aged 3 hours.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
I love that. That's really cool.
That is very cool.
It goes to talking about how malleable and flexible the whole concept of space and time is, because, again, even though they're the parameters we've agreed to play the physical reality game by, they are becoming a little bit more loose and fast. They are becoming more malleable and more flexible as our idea of physical reality changes. I think we're seeing more reflections of the fact that physical reality can change in a lot more ways than we used to think. And the collapse of space and time is one of those symptoms.
That almost seems to be like the theme of our whole journey. It was the release of limitations.
Yeah.
You know, the concept of limitation that we had previously conceived in our minds, as we released them, we saw the physical, demonstration of that release almost immediately. And it was incredible, some of the things that were accomplished and some of the things that we were all experiencing. It really was, it wasn't a matter of learning a new technique it was just the release of the of a thing that allowed us to.
Yeah, I think we'll see more and more of that.
Now, one of the things that I like when I listen to a lot of you had talked a lot about this year, 2013, and how pivotal this year is. And some of the changes that we've been very much, at the forefront of monitoring the, events and participating in actively trying to bring about change, through the collective consciousness. This is the title of the show, The Collective Imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Bob, I don't want to interrupt you, Dylan, but your audio's changed and you're not quite as loud as you were. I don't know what's happened, but can you speak up or?
Yeah, well, I'm sharing with Dee now, so I had to take the headphones off, so we're kind of sharing the microphone. Is that better?
That's
yes.
better, thank you.
Okay. But I was wondering if you could talk about some of those changes, and do you see some of those changes and how they're affecting our here and now?
Well, I think this really is a strong year of transformation. Really, the changes that we're going to see, like you said, the changes we're going to see externally are going to be commensurate and reflective of the changes we make within ourselves internally. So the clearer we understand, the clearer we perceive the actual structure of existence itself and how reality is created, I think the more clearly we will see those changes and those manifestations reflected externally in the projection around us. I just am seeing, I think, more and more people grasping this idea and having experiences that are based on the changes of perception that people are having about reality. Because according to what Bashar talks about, physical reality is really all about your definition of it. So as people clarify and refine their definitions of their experience and their relationship to the concept of physical existence, they're going to have different kinds of physical experiences that go with those new definitions. And that's mostly what I'm seeing, is people getting a handle on clarifying their definitions and therefore changing their experience of reality.
One of the things that I've been observing, the guys in Morocco, Darryl, and in a sense they were creating their own little reality pocket.
Sure.
Is that something we're going to see more and more of, where groups of people actually do that?
I think so. I mean, Bashar's talked about this year being kind of like a splitting prism, or to use another analogy he often talked about, it's like trains are now leaving the station in different directions. And so it depends on what track you're on as to ultimately what reality you're going to experience. And the farther away the trains get from the station, the farther apart the tracks get. So it's kind of like you're going to start seeing different kinds of groups, different kinds of belief systems gathering together into more and more and more pockets. And I think eventually, and I'm not really sure how long this will take, but eventually I think as the frequency tracks or the frequency realities get farther and farther apart, you're ultimately probably only going to experience the track or pocket reality that is reflective of the vibrational frequency you chose to be on. So according to Bashar, it's important to make sure you're on the train you want to be on as soon as possible, because it might actually get a little bit more difficult later on down the line, years hence, to jump from one train to another, because eventually, as the tracks get farther apart, you may no longer even know there is another train.
I've heard it referred to as a frequency split as well.
Yeah, same thing.
Bashar, in order to make sure you're on the right train, as you put it, Darryl.
That's all right. I'll answer to both at this point.
You'll answer to both. Oh, I could call you Bob at any minute too, so just because I'm a bit tired. In order to make sure you're on the right train, how important is it to let go of all attachments?
Well, it's not letting go of all attachments. Obviously, if you let go of all of them, you won't be physical anymore. But the idea is to be in the frequency that is representative of your true self as best as you possibly can. And the way that Bashar talks about doing that is to make sure you're always acting to the best of your ability on your highest passion, your highest excitement. He's saying that sensation, what we call excitement, what we call passion, is our actual physical translation of the vibrational frequency that represents our true self. So the more you act on things that contain that vibration, the more you're in alignment with the track that is truly your track. So it really is that clear, that simple. It's just a matter of letting go of the things that prevent you from taking those actions and staying in that frequency.
You know, what this group has come to call what you're saying is following the energetic trail.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
What you're really following is your own frequency.
Yes.
Indeed.
Energetically, I'm already there, and I've laid breadcrumbs for myself, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's being conscious and aware of noticing those breadcrumbs and following the trail.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the more you act on your excitement, the easier it is to notice those markers, those breadcrumbs, because all the things that are commensurate with that frequency start to stand out.
Yeah, we actually also call it the event flow. And what tends to happen is when you start following it, the synchronicity the occurrence of synchronicities is huge.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's what you mean by things jumping out at you.
Exactly.
It becomes actually quite freaky.
It does. It does. There are some amazing synchronicities. I mean, it's really almost becoming like, magical in a sense. There are things that happen. You run into people at exactly the right place, the right time. Things fall into your lap at exactly the right place, the right time. It becomes quite magical.
Yeah, we've had stuff happen.
I'm sorry, Chris.
No, jump in, Bob.
As you're saying that, we're down here laughing. We're having a good chuckle because everything happened exactly that way.
Yeah.
We met just the right people right at the right time. My chair ran out of batteries. We just so happened to be right next to a mechanic who had a charger.
Exactly.
It was magical.
Yeah, it's an orchestra. It's all an orchestration. And when you are staying in the frequency of your true self and allowing synchronicity to really become a major part of your life, it reveals itself as the orchestration that it is. It just becomes very apparent that it's all an orchestration.
And that's what these moments of deja vu are too, yeah?
In some senses. I think deja vu can actually sort of be a number of different things. But in one sense, it is a deeper penetration into the underlying nature and structure of things, and you're seeing things all at once, because everything does exist at once. Everything's connected. So in a sense, it's like seeing something that hasn't, quote unquote, happened yet, and yet knowing exactly what's going to happen as if it already has happened. So you're kind of seeing the past, the future, and the present all sort of blending into a present understanding that everything exists now. It's all overlapping.
One of the other interesting aspects of the whole trip to Morocco, because there's about 11 or 12 adults and a bunch of kids all went on this little pilgrimage, if you could call it that. And a number of people there started out the whole process by having absolutely no money for a ticket, yet they all got there,
right,
including Bob. Bob actually, had his intentions set to go, and had no money. And I think it was Lisa and a couple of others started putting out calls in chat rooms, and in less than 2 hours, he had more than enough money to get his ticket and go.
Yeah, there are many forms of abundance. I think all too often, and this is not in any way, shape, or form to discount money. It's one of the forms on our planet that is representative of abundance. But there are many forms of abundance, and I think people tend to forget that. It isn't always necessary to have the money. There are many other ways that things can certainly manifest. But if money is needed, there are certainly avenues by which to attract it. And I think it's just sort of letting go of the need for any one particular form of abundance that sort of paradoxically allows whatever form needs to be there to manifest as effortlessly as it possibly can. And I'm hearing many more stories like that as well from people that I know and from people that I don't know, about how as long as they just continue to take action and move in the direction of their excitement, something will unfold that will allow them to be where they need to be. And it may be in a completely unexpected way, and that's okay too. So it's really just about being open to different forms of abundance and seeing which form is really the way that is the path of least resistance.
I was having a conversation with...
Sorry, Chris, but Dee here.
Hey, Dee.
I was talking about this a couple of shows ago. And that was it. When I knew that I had to get my family to Morocco, it's like what Darryl was just saying. I just released the expectations. I released my preconceived notions of how and when and where and all the rest of it. Let it go. Said, I'm going to Morocco. I will meet everyone there who I need to meet, and it will happen.
Yeah.
And in 2 weeks, everything flowed. Every little detail that had to be taken care of, from getting someone to look after my pets to finding, everything just flowed. And it was so easy. It just flowed instantaneously.
That's great. And that's the way life can be when we allow it to be that way, because life already works. We don't have to make it work. We just have to go with the flow.
Yeah, I ran across someone a while back who wanted to get to a gathering, of an event, and had no money, was quite upset about the fact she really needed to get there, and obviously completely focused on it. Well, a girlfriend turned up out of the blue, gave her money just because she wanted to do stuff. She wanted to do that in return for something that had happened between them in the past. And then a couple of hours later, she got another call from someone who offered her transport and free accommodation and the whole box and dice. It just went whap in about 6 hours, 12 hours. It was all done.
Yeah.
So it's quite amazing.
Yeah, although it's becoming more and more common, and I think that in and of itself is much more indicative of the world that we can create, that it can operate that way. You know, Bashar talks about the fact that his world operates completely that way. It operates only on synchronicity. No one plans anything. They just have the intention. They move forward on their action. Everything falls into place. The right people are there. The right things are there. Their entire civilization operates that way, and I think we're seeing more and more of that now in our own reality, too.
Well, yeah, I mean, another example is you talking about BZ?
Me? No, it was somebody else. BZ's another one. That was only very recent. That was only in the last week where one of the... put
a call out and say thank you to everybody for chipping in the way they have. But please give an update on it.
Look, we did an update yesterday, but I'll repeat it today because the audience will probably be different. She has found a place. She has organised people to help her move, and all is well. It's going to float just as we're talking about. And she also sends a big thank you out to everybody who assisted her too. She's moving on Monday, basically.
I will tell you this, guys. After experiencing...
Speak up, Bob. Speak up.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
That's it now.
Yeah.
After experiencing what I've experienced this weekend or this past week, it's almost hard. It's impossible. I can't go back to living the old way. Once you understand how it works, and you actually test it, you put it to practice, and you start doing it, it's impossible. You cannot go back.
Well, like why would you want to?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So what's happening with you and Bashar over the next year, for example? Sorry, Darryl, can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to someone else. Well, we have many things going on here. We are now actually at the beginning stages in pre-production of working on a Bashar documentary, which will take us through the rest of the year. We start shooting in July. And it'll be the story about how I became a channel, because that's never really been told before by anyone, I think, in a documentary, how people become channels, what channeling is, so we can sort of demystify that process for people, who Bashar is, what his information is all about. And ultimately, the documentary is about the idea that this information being delivered by Bashar, in a sense, is kind of like a precursor to physical contact. So the documentary will cover all those different points of view and introduce people, ideally, to a number of different things in a very graphic way than we've ever had an opportunity to do before, especially because that it is a movie and we're using visual effects. We get to show people what I see in my head when I'm channeling him. So we get to see what Bashar looks like, what his planet looks like, his ships, and all that. And we're using all sorts of graphics to illustrate a lot of the concepts that he talks about to bring them to the public in a different way, so that they're sort of more fun to grasp, a little bit easier to wrap our minds around some of the esoteric concepts that he sometimes delivered. So that project is going to take us basically to the end of the year.
Darryl, there was prior to your involvement with Bashar was being channeled by another person?
No, I'm the first one to channel Bashar.
You're the first one?
Yeah, Bashar did help a few other people early on, and allowed them to channel him temporarily in order to prepare them to channel other beings, but he doesn't really do that right now. Right now, I'm the only one channeling him.
Sure, because one of the things I've noticed, the segment videos that appear on YouTube are actually spaced over quite a wide period of time. And one of the things I've noticed is the appearance of a real sense of humour, as we would call it. I wonder whether that's something Bashar really enjoys, and whether that was kind of unexpected for him that he would go that path, because he's, some of the stuff almost amounts to stand-up comedy.
They are very, yes. Well, his civilization, his people are very humorous. They love to laugh. They have humor. The only difference for him is, I think, the thing that was new for him in being able to sort of have his thoughts translated into our language is he said that in their language they don't have the ability to make puns. So he enjoys our language because he can pun in our language, which they can't do in their civilization. But they have humor. They definitely, absolutely have a sense of humor.
Yeah, I particularly like the way he actually starts all of his segments with "Good day," because it's very close to my own language, Australian, or as it's sometimes referred to, Strine, which is "G'day." So if you ever come to Australia, a slight modification, and you'll have the audience instantly.
Well, that's up to him.
Indeed.
Is it your sense of humour that he's has rubbed off on him, or is it purely his?
Well, no, I think it's the other way around, because I mean, I had my own sense of humor before I started channeling, but he has a very distinct sense of humor, and in many ways, I think his has definitely rubbed off on me more than mine has on him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The concept of there not being a pun is very interesting, actually. Very interesting. I mean, it's all based around the fact that languages like English have many words that have 2, 3, even 4 meanings at times. So,
right. Which
obviously their telepathic language doesn't require.
Exactly. So he enjoys the so-called limitations of our language, because it allows him to get puns across in ways that his telepathic communication and even his own ancient actual language wasn't constructed to do.
We are masters of limitations, apparently.
That's what he calls us. Yes. He considers us really not. Many people on Earth think, we're stuck in this little kindergarten class. These other beings are so much more advanced than us. And while in certain ways, yes, okay, there may be certain technological advances and sociological advances, but Bashar really considers us a master class, because he's saying, look, you're on a planet that had great limitation, and you're transforming that limitation into freedom. You're transforming great darkness into light. And it takes a strong soul and a master class to do something like that. So he doesn't want us to think of ourselves as being kindergartners in comparison to them. He wants us to think of ourselves as master spirits, really, really mastering the whole idea of transforming physical limitations into freedom.
Well, one of the things I've discovered, Darryl, is even that idea of being more advanced civilization, technology-wise, is really only an illusion, because even that technology is based on everything that is already naturally existent and inherent in humans.
Yes, of course.
All of the things that we use technology for, we have the ability inherently to do. It's just our idea that we have in our heads that we can't do it.
Right.
That limits us from actually accessing that technology.
Oh, of course. I mean, Bashar says technology, like anything in physical reality, is only a reflection of what we're willing to believe is possible. So, and another thing he's said along the same line that I find kind of funny is, he's heard us talk about, as humans in general, talk about the idea that, we only use 5 or 10% of our brain. And he's basically saying, well, that's not actually true. You're using 100% of your brain. It's just that you're using 100% of your brain to make it seem as if you're only using 10%. And that's the joke. So
that's pretty funny.
We really do use 100% of our brain. It's just a matter of how we need to use it rather than learning to use more of it. So again, it's a shift in perception that's required, not really the learning of something we're not already doing. It's just a matter of doing it differently.
This is classic Bashar, what I love, Darryl. his ability to put these ideas into very, very simple and, language that is so easy to digest and understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that about him too. No, well, okay, partly pun intended. What I really do enjoy about Bashar is his ability to translate, like you said, esoteric or metaphysical concepts and bring them down to earth. That's I think his great gift, and in providing toolkits for people so that when they walk away from a conversation, they're actually left with something they can use and apply in their life that can make a difference, so that they don't have to keep running back to people like him, that he's trying to self-empower people and let them know they have all the abilities within them that they need to access whatever information they require, to make whatever changes they require, that everyone is equal in that context. And that's really the crux of his message is we all have these abilities, and he's just demonstrating and reflecting to us what we're already all about.
Now, Darryl, there's one thing, as you mentioned, that comes to mind. Can everybody still hear me? Because I'm holding the microphone.
Sort of, yes.
You had mentioned in a video, and I had only become really aware of Bashar like around in 2010 when I started seeing the YouTube videos and things. But you've been doing channeling Bashar for quite some time. But
30 years.
Earlier video, I believe it was like 2008, you had mentioned some of the transformations that we would see in the near future, which is our present now. And one of those things you mentioned was that there were in the...
You have gone out. I can't hear you at all anymore.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Now.
Back.
Okay.
So
that you had mentioned that we would about some of the changes that we would see in the future. This was in the 2008 video, and that future being our present now. And one of the things you had mentioned that there would be changes in the way that we do financial transactions, that we would move to a type of universal exchange, which was quite incredible because before I had ever heard or seen that video, we were working on that very concept of an international universal exchange. Mm-hmm. And which most of our audience that are listening here tonight are very familiar with because they've been waiting for this to go online.
Right.
Can you speak to that? Now, are those some of the things or some of the changes that Bashar talks about occurring in this year 2013?
Well, I think that, I think they're going to go on for a while as well. I don't think it's all going to happen this year, but I think what he's simply saying is new systems will be being created at these times now for this year and the years to come that will ultimately replace the old systems. So it's about the people who are now involved, like yourself, in creating those new systems so that by the time the old systems fade away, we will have something to replace them with. I think that's basically what he's talking about.
Very good. Thanks for that clarification.
Sure.
Okay, we're just adding Heather here to say hi, crossing my fingers that the connection can be made, because we're right on the limit of bandwidth, I hear, at this stage. So it's I'm hoping that the voices are actually getting out well.
No, she's jumped off, Darryl. She said she'll connect with you and Bashar another way.
Okay, well, I'll just, if she's still listening, I'll just say hi. Hi, Heather.
There you go. Yeah, Darryl.
Sorry, go on, Chris.
I was just going to ask, what's the rough age of the civilization that Bashar comes from? Are you able to put a figure to it in terms of our years?
About 3,000 years.
So it's about 3,000 years old, that civilization.
Yes, but they live in a parallel reality that's on a completely different frequency from us, which operates 10 times faster than ours. So we would only perceive them as being about 300 years old, but from their perspective, they've actually had a history of 3,000 years or so.
Okay,
that's
so
not very long.
Yeah, so How does
they're a manufactured society. They're not. They didn't evolve naturally. They're a hybrid race that was actually created, and therefore they sort of had a head start. They didn't really need to go through all of the same kind of history that we did.
Manufactured by who?
This is a long story, and we cover some of this in the documentary that we're doing, but briefly, for those that are familiar with what's called the alien abduction scenario, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Many of you will be familiar with the fact that many of the abductees said that they have seen the alien beings known as the Greys actually creating hybrid beings using our DNA and their DNA and creating a new race that is something between Earth human and Grey being. Well, Bashar civilization is one of those hybrid offshoot races. And there are, according to Bashar, 4 more other whole civilizations that are composed of those kinds of hybrids.
How large is their civilization?
Bashar's civilization at any given moment is no larger than about 250 million people. It's a relatively small population.
Indeed. So how do they move from one reality to the other? Obviously, there's a technology. Is it a technology, or are they doing it through a consciousness shift?
Well, it's both. It's both, but it is represented by a technology in their ships. And the quickest way I can explain that is what Bashar explained to us, which is they don't think of an object existing in a location. They think of location as one of the properties of the object. And therefore, every object actually has, let's say, a signature vibration equation. So if an object exists in location A, if you move it to location B, that means it actually has a different signature. It has a different equation, vibration that goes with it. So if an object exists in location A, and you can somehow cut it off from reality, isolate it, let's say, in some sort of a force field, and then impose on that object vibrational frequency of the location in B, the object has to stop existing at location A and just suddenly and instantly start existing at location B. That's how they travel instantaneously from star to star, from reality to reality, by imposing the frequency of the location they're going to on their ship. And it simply has to take up residence in that new location because now that has become part of its new vibrational frequency signature.
In a way, don't we do the same thing, but we just have to...
We do it all the time biologically, just even to move around. But they have figured out how to do that over what we consider to be vast distances that they don't think of as distances. So again, it's a matter of perception. It's a matter of expanding that concept because, yes, we do it all the time. It's just that they've learned to do it in a way that to us looks like they're crossing vast distances, but it's because they don't see those things as distant. They see everything existing at the same place, in a sense.
And for them, they manage to do it instantaneously, whereas we have the perception of time.
Yes.
Well, you know that explains a lot of experiences where people have by location.
Microphone, Bob.
Yeah,
microphone.
Lean in, Bob, but not too close because you do pop the microphone a little bit.
Okay, I'm just putting the headphones on. Dee's just gonna have to deal with it.
Oh, that's better.
What I was saying is, you know, that explains a lot of, you know, experiences that people have with bilocation, where they are, you know, they're envisioning and they're so envisioning that all of a sudden they open their eyes and they physically can see the surroundings, can describe it, you know, as though they're physically there. And I guess in a sense they are physically there.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
No, I actually used to have a friend who's no longer physical with us, who actually on several occasions did actually physically bilocate from one place to another physically. So it can be done, and they do that, and it's exactly the same principle. They've just learned how to apply it on larger and larger scales.
Darryl, we have a caller with a question. Would you like to take a question from the audience?
Sure.
Okay, I'll bring them in, unmuting the mic. Area code 805. Good morning. Welcome.
Hello?
Hello? Yes, hello. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I was just wondering, does Bashar, does he have like a certain like layout for how to achieve this thing? Like, is there certain steps that you take to reach what we're talking about, which we're basically talking about unity, aren't we?
Yes. Well, what specifically are you talking about as the result? You talking about by location? You talking about something else?
No, I'm just talking about the steps that we take in order to reach unity. Are there certain steps that? And can you tell me those?
Well, yes. I mean, essentially, there's one specific formula that Bashar talks about, and it has to do with acting on your excitement, because excitement is the vibration of your true frequency.
Gosh.
So the whole formula is act on your highest excitement every moment that you can to the best of your ability, taking it as far as you can until you can take it no further. Act on the next most exciting thing that presents itself to you synchronistically that contains the highest excitement, and keep doing that with absolutely zero assumption, insistence, or expectation on what the outcome ought to be. That's the whole formula.
Wow. That sounds great.
Sounds like a pretty good way to live,
sounds
doesn't it?
great because, pardon me?
I just said it sounds like a pretty good way to live.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it does. Following your heart, which is a simple thing. If it feels good in your stomach, then it's probably right.
Well, generally speaking, although you always have to pay attention to whether you're coloring for something with your beliefs or whether it's truly representative of your excitement. You have to have the discernment to tell the difference. Because sometimes people can be caught up in anxiety and they don't want to look at that, so they cover it up and they think it's excitement when in fact it may not be. But as long as you are sure that what you're acting on with integrity is truly representative of your highest excitement, and you do that with no expectation as to what the outcome ought to be, you'll be following that formula.
Yeah.
Now, Darryl, what you just said. There's
hopefully that helps.
I'm sorry.
Bob. Go, Bob.
Go, Bob.
There's one aspect of what you said that you said it in such a matter-of-fact way that it almost belies the importance, that part of no expectation and no attachment to the outcome.
Yeah,
because a lot of times, in our experience, we look to the past and we project it to our future. We have expectations. Okay, well, if I do this, then this is going to happen, and then we wait. We wait for X, Y, Z of our expectation to happen before we take any other action, and that doesn't work.
No, and it's not like and Bashar's not saying that you can't have some expectancy that certain things may happen when you do a certain thing. There are certain causes and certain effects in that sense. But what he's really talking about is, from a deeper explanation. Basically, he's saying the physical mind is not designed and is not capable of actually knowing how something is actually going to happen. Only the higher mind knows how something is going to happen. The physical mind is designed to know what's happening. It's having the experience, and it must stay in the present with that. It's not built to project how something should actually come about. That's why when the physical mind has a vision, like when people visualize, it's great to visualize, and it's great to make that visualization as specific as you want it to be about what you think is the ideal reality. But the point of the visualization is only to generate the state of excitement that visualization causes in you, and then hold on to that state of excitement, but completely let the visualization go. Because when you hold on to the state of excitement and let the visual part of it go, then the higher mind can actually bring you the manifestation that is actually representative of the state of being you're in, which may actually be better than your physical mind was capable of imagining. So if you insist on a particular outcome, you may actually be shorting yourself, even though sometimes people think, oh, well, I've got this amazing ideal picture, nothing could be better than that. But you see, the physical mind isn't actually capable of imagining what to be better than that, but the higher mind is. So what to the physical mind may seem to be the ultimate reality, to the higher mind may just be the beginning. And that's why it's important to let that go, let that expectation and insistence on a particular outcome go, because the higher mind always knows exactly what really is representative of that state of being. And so don't hold on to that picture, just hold on to the state.
So using that visualization that your physical mind can come up with as simply a launch pad for what's really possible.
Exactly. It's just a symbol to get you into the right state, to get you excited. Then stay in the excitement and let the picture go so that the real picture can manifest.
Because the pictures
Now, sometimes it may look almost identical, but many times it actually may be very different. And that's when we have to understand that if something different happens, we can't label that as having something gone wrong. We have to understand the higher mind is giving us what will actually lead us to the best possible outcome, even though our physical mind may not recognize the pathway at that moment.
Yeah, so the picture is a tool, and you actually leave it as that. Otherwise, you're actually applying a limitation, which is the picture.
Yes, exactly.
Can I ask you another question?
It's all about the state of being.
Excuse me, could I ask another question?
Yes, darling.
I was wondering, does Bashar, does he explain what truth is?
Well, yes, in a sense. Basically, all truths are true. Whatever is real to you, whatever you define as your reality, is just as true as what anyone else defines. Now, certainly there are things that are common truths, but there are things that are not. And that doesn't make them necessarily any less true. It just makes them true for you, even though it might not be true for someone else. So truth in that sense, aside from the very basics of existence, is really relative. And all truths are true. From Bashar's perspective, there are only 5 things that are true for everyone in creation. And that's what he calls the 5 laws. And the 5 laws are simply that you exist, that everything is here and now, that the one is all and the all are one, what you put out is what you get back, and that everything changes except the first 4 laws. And that's all there is. That's true for every single being in creation. Everything else is a matter of a combination of those ideas and based on your own personal perspective, which is your truth.
Wow, that is so concise. That's beautiful. Can I ask one more question? Just one more question. Does Bashar...
I'm almost out of time here, but hurry up.
Okay. What about suffering? Does Bashar talk about suffering?
He does. And I'm just I know this is going to be overly simplistic because we don't have a lot of time to address it, so I'm not trying to say that it's just this simple. But basically, from Bashar's point of view, all pain is resistance to the natural self. So when you stop resisting your true nature, when you stop resisting your true nature, pain and suffering go away.
Yeah, that sounds right on. Just resistance to what is, just saying yes instead of no, saying, why is this happening to me? Embrace it.
Exactly. Caller, I'll pop you back on hold so Darryl can wrap up, but thank you very much for your questions. They were very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Darryl, where can people go to see or find out or read Bashar's material?
There's 2 places they can go to see what we're doing. One is Bashar.org, Bashar.org. Is all the information about all the events that we're doing, all the channeling events, all the information that Bashar has channeled. That's available there, DVDs, CDs. They can find anything they want to know about the Bashar stuff there. The other is they can go with regard to things like our documentary and other films that my production company, Zia Films, has done and is going to do. They can go to ziafilms.com. That's Z as in zebra, IAFILMS, ziafilms.com, and that's my production company for the different films that we're going to be creating and are creating.
Thank you so much, Darryl.
Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate you having me in the discussion. I wish you all the best and sweet dreams.
Thank you. And give our best to Bashar.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure having you with us.
My pleasure as well. Thank you so much for providing the opportunity. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hopefully we'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Sorry, I just completely cracked up then. Heather walked in and teased me. I'm going to get her back. Okay. As we said in the start of the show, the first hour was with Darryl, and the second hour is the crew. Someone keeps writing in the chat room, Lisa, are you going to go Sasquatch? But I don't know what that means. So please explain.
I would say,
okay.
I would say, Lisa, they mean, are you going to be 7 foot tall and hairy?
Well, that doesn't sound very appealing. I hope not.
No, indeed.
I shaved today.
Too much information.
Oh dear. Okay, you haven't yet, no.
So
where is?
Do you want to take a salt break?
No, I'll probably fall asleep if we do that.
Okay, well, let's not.
Let's not. So let's try and bring Heather back in. And we've got Mark as well. Heather and Mark are sitting together, I think.
As you're saying that,
so am I pulling in Mark?
Lisa, I'm looking at Heather. She's sitting outside my window, shaking her head like, what?
do you want me to pull Mark in or Heather in onto the board?
Try Mark then.
Okay.
He's sitting in the hallway.
He's sitting in the hallway. Why is he sitting in the hallway?
Because we're all trying to stay in separate parts of the house, so we're out of each other's earshot.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. The audio overlap, yeah. What? You're busy?
That's all right. Don't worry. He's going to go downstairs and hang around Bob's computer as well.
Okay. So do you want me to pull Heather in?
No, I don't. They can all hang around Bob's computer.
There you go. Simple.
There you go. Okay. Who's there, Bob? Who have you got?
Well, Heather's actually stepped out for a smoke, and right now, currently, I'm by myself. So.
Where's Dee gone?
She's out for a smoke as well.
Smoko. All right, let's start with what's happened with you then while we've got you. We actually do have video footage of this, guys, and American Kabuki, I think, is putting it together to show you. First piece of footage was taken the day you arrived or the day after you arrived?
First day.
First day you arrived. Showing Bob being helped with one person on either side that he was leaning very heavily on, and I think you took 4 steps. Not very good ones either. And then
the floor was sticky.
The floor was, the foot kept dragging. And then I think 2 days after that we took more footage where you did pretty well. You took about 10 or 15 steps. Only 2 days after. And that was with Vera, or McCoy, as we've been calling her. Her healing treatments on you. And then we've got some footage of what happened out in the desert, which is going to blow everybody away. We did some serious energetic work the other night, and Bob was a focal point for a lot of it. And the next morning, Bob got up and he pushed a wheelchair with Brian sitting in the wheelchair for about 20 meters, all by himself. It was an amazing.
And it was uphill both ways in 2 feet of snow. No. But it was in the sand on carpeted ground over the sand. Uneven terrain and a slight incline uphill, which a 4.2 I would have thought was impossible. But I'll the whole experience it's changed me forever. I know what is possible now, and I know it's all in my head. It's all in my head. It's all in your head.
Oh, we're losing you, Bob.
Sorry. The energy of that place was so tangible, so palpable. And when I woke up that morning, Vera did her normal. She comes with the electrodes in her machine, ready to torture me in the morning. She's like, "Well, let's see how you're doing." And I lifted in there.
Hang on, we've lost you again.
Sorry.
Yes. She came in and you lifted both legs, we heard.
And I was like, I just have to try. I have to try my new legs, because that's what they felt like. I have to try my new legs. And it was, oh God. Yeah, I can't explain it.
You know what else I've noticed has changed? One of the things that when we do these radio shows, I constantly hear from you is throat clearing. And I just realised you haven't done that not only on the show, but I haven't heard you do that for days.
It's interesting.
Does anyone else notice that? Okay.
I hadn't noticed.
And Bob, are you able to walk unassisted yet? Completely free, as it were?
No.
As we got further and further away from that place, it became more difficult. But then again, I also know that is also in my head. So right now, I know what is possible. I know it can be done because I did it there.
You know what, Bob? I really think after what Darryl said too, is that it wasn't the place that was magical. It would have happened anywhere that we'd sent the intent for it to happen. But we had this collective vision of the desert. And I think that we projected all of that energy there and set the intent that magic would happen there. And it did. We could have set the same intention for the living room downstairs and it would have happened there. I'm rambling, thoughts going through my head right now.
I just wonder whether the energetics of the desert would be a lot simpler than a suburb. It probably was a better location to do something that's just purely energetic.
Yeah, less distractions, less
interference.
Interference, for sure. But it's again, is that not a matter of perception too? I mean, do you allow? It's a matter of allowing yourself to be distracted, isn't it?
Well, I'll tell you what. Even coming back, one of the things that is definitely changed is I have sore muscles. Now, for a paralyzed man, this is an extremely good thing.
Bob's thumb hurt. from sitting on it.
Okay, now we're getting. Yes, I have a sore bum, and they rubbed cream on it. Is that too much information?
Yep.
I thought I went too far, but you overdid it.
Yep.
But it was an incredible gift, and I thank all of you for it. It was. I'm not going to talk too much more about it because I'll start crying, and I don't want to do that right now. But thank you.
You're welcome. Now, is Dee with you?
Hold on.
I could hear them giggling in the background.
Hello.
Hello. Now, you said... Oh, what was that? It's Bob's computer. It keeps dropping them, I think.
I'm here.
There you are.
Yeah, I'm here. I promise.
Well, there's a lot of people who, post out on your blogs saying you'd be on the show and, talking about the desert. So you better speak up and give your side of the story, Darryl.
Oh, gosh. Well, since I missed the whole first part there when I was, forgot what time it was and had to come running down the street with my computer and then couldn't use it anyways. I don't know what you guys have already covered. I mean, I can talk about we went through stages in the desert that was very, very interesting, and we went through contrasts, and we went through this, what we talked for. Say this because I put out a post about this a little while ago when I was talking about going into the desert, and I said that, everyone's been working energetically with us there, and if you've been having dreams about sand dunes and rocky, craggy mountains and men dressed in blue, join the club. You've been hanging out with us. When we first got here the morning after we arrived, we were completely exhausted. I decided to get the stomach flu as soon as we walked off the bus. So when everyone else went traipsing off to the souk, to the local market, Bob and Katrina and I stayed back at this little hotel place right beside the mechanic shop that was looking after recharging Bob's chair for him. And no sooner had everyone left, in blue.
Sorry,
traditional.
Dee, it did drop out.
Okay.
No sooner than
everyone
so
had left. The rest of the group had left. Then a man kind of appeared there, standing next to us on the veranda of the hotel, wearing traditional blue robes. And Bob, being the friendly guy that he is, starts chatting with him, and the gentleman spoke excellent English. And Bob, kind of after saying a few things here and there, says, would you be from one of the tribes? And the man smiles and says, yes, I'm a Tuareg, one of the Tuareg tribes. And if anyone's done any kind of they're well known in in 5 different countries around the Sahara as one of the traditional bands, and they dress in blue robes that are dyed with the indigo. So as soon as he said this, we all kind of looked at each other and were like, oh, there's our men in blue that we've been dreaming about. And we started chatting, and in a matter of minutes, this man explained to us the tribal version of what we call eternal essence. And it was an astounding moment. Like, we just sat there listening as we exchanged ideas from our processes of where we're coming from, and him discussing the tribal background and the beliefs of his people. No borders. Complete equality amongst all human beings, all between men. Point, he's talking about, pardon me, the tribes coming up through that town that we were in, and it was known in ancient times. It was a meeting ground of all the tribes would come up to do trade, and he mentioned the selling of souls for gold. And when he said that sentence, it was literally like someone hit me in the chest with a 2x4 of basically, this is what we've been fighting. This is what the OPPT papers and everything were all about, is these financial people stealing our souls, so to speak, for the money, for the value that it That's what it was. And so we had just... Oh, hold on. I have to hand back to Bob. Hold on.
There were several things that he said in that conversation that, unprompted, because we hadn't yet even told him who we were and why we were there. But he mentioned, one of the things he said was, we have discovered that in the desert, the imagination starts in your heart and it becomes real in the desert. And he also said that he, in his tribe, their teachings, they says, we believe in a world without borders. They call us nomad. And we are all equal, all the same. And he's saying these things to us unprompted. You know, that's what led to the conversation about the whole OPPT and what we were there and why we were on this whole journey. But it was incredible. I'm going to give it back to Dee because she can finish her story.
I'm back again. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So as we went along, it was very interesting as people came into the picture. So, for example, at one place where we were staying, they decided we wanted to go into the desert. And this rolling sand dunes that go on for hundreds of miles. In the southernmost part of Morocco, the desert there is flat, arid, rocky, craggy land. And yet there is an island in the middle of it. It starts out of nowhere. It ends out of nowhere of sand dunes. It doesn't gradually blend in. It's someone just literally dumped 20 miles of sand dunes in the middle of a flat plain of rocks. And it's quite incredible to see. So a bunch of people had decided we're going to go on a little cart trek and we're going to drive around the whole 20-mile island of dunes. We started going around. The visual stimulation of the trip was amazing. Of course, these sand dunes range in colors of pink to orange and gold and yellow, almost to pale reds, every color you can imagine in that spectrum. But as we did it, it was the person who'd organized this trip for us had organized it as if we were tourists. And they tried to take us through, like, this is where the movie Sahara was filmed, and we're kind of like, yeah, whatever, don't care. It's not what we're here for. And at one point, we came around an area, and they have, in the middle of this plain, there's just a stone mud hut and the kind of traditional tents of the nomads. And they pulled up, and I knew what was coming, that they wanted us basically to get out and go see these people living in this hut and, you know, take our picture with them and this kind of. And I was sitting next to Heather, and I said to Heather, this is wrong. This is intrinsically and morally wrong, and I cannot have anything to do with this. And when they pulled up, I literally got out of the car, I walked in the opposite direction, about 100 meters out, and sat in the middle of the desert floor, and I cried because it was so wrong. And it set an amazing contrast that when we got back to the hotel, so many of us felt it deeply inside, like this was not what we were here for, and this was not what it was about. And our guide, who happens to be a friend of Heather's husband, who's just an amazing man in and of himself, he takes Heather off to the side and says, okay, as she's explaining to him what, about the energetic work, etc. And he says, okay, and he takes her off and says, we're going to go visit a different tribe. And she walks in and she says, oh yes, this is the place. So we all load up into the cars and walk to just the whole trip around the dunes really didn't do anything for us. And we got out of the cars at this village. And as we walked through the front gates, if you will, I'd say at least half of us broke down.
I think we all broke down to some degree. It felt
Energy just
like
hit you
we'd
and you were
finally
like, oh
arrived.
my God, this is it. It was like, this is home. This is the place.
Mm-hmm.
And would it have felt that, would we have reacted that strongly if we hadn't had the contrast set earlier on in the day? I don't know. But it was an overwhelming sensation. And once we'd put our bags down and we'd met and listened to them play some welcoming music to us, we went out and sat. The dunes were literally 10 feet in front of the tents. And we went out and sat on the dunes and just sat there and we're like, oh. There was this massive release of just, okay, now we're here. You know, like the last 2 days of kind of going around all this other thing was just a lead up to actually getting to the right place. And it was just an incredible experience. And we stayed with the tribes out on the desert there for 2 days. And every moment of it was just, it was bliss. We were joking at the end of it, saying we don't want to go home. We'll just stay here. Never
we could
mind
all happily have lived in the desert in tents.
Yeah, we could have. We literally. I was like, yeah, you know, I think I'll just stay here.
We just needed to build a pool and get Wi-Fi. We would have stayed. It was extraordinary, and the highlight was, for me anyway, was an energetic. There's a couple actually, of very strong, energetic doings while we were there. And yes, Bob. No, start again. We've lost you.
Continue, Lisa. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's all right. You go.
I was just going to comment on some of what Dee said. When we first took that tour around the dunes, they must have thought we were the craziest bunch because, like she said, we weren't getting excited about any of the things that they were talking about. We're out looking at rocks. and picking up rocks and like, oh wow, look at the crystal, and they're looking at us like, okay, they're picking up rocks.
Not your typical tourists, that's for sure.
So, Lisa, what was the name of the second tribe?
Oh, the card for them is actually downstairs in the living room, guys. For those of you who are down there, to get the name of it.
Yeah. Ganawa Kamalia.
Ganawa Kamalia. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And what was it that you did in those 2 days?
Oh.
Well, like I said, we did a couple of really beautiful and intense and powerful energetic doings. One was, and now you've got to picture this for a second, people. Here's Bob. How tall are you? 6 foot something?
Almost 6'3".
All right, not a little boy. In a rather old wheelchair, manual wheelchair, right? And 8 of us. He was dragged. He was dragged and pushed and pulled through a desert in a wheelchair, about 2, maybe 300 meters through over through dunes to get him.
Over dunes.
I have to.
Yeah, they nicknamed my chair the bobsled.
That's right. Mark and Brian put in Herculean effort to get that done. with some assistance from me, Dee, and Heather, predominantly. But you don't imagine a guy in a wheelchair ending up in the middle of the desert.
Surely you could have actually carried him across on a classic Arabian litter. A couple of, with 4 people and some bits of wood. And
we thought about that. We thought about that halfway.
Mm-hmm. A little late by then.
It's we actually did. Someone wrote it in the chat room, and we did call ourselves Bob's Bobsled Team. I love the way Heather put it. Impossible. It was something impossible, and I am possible. We did it. We got a man in a wheelchair into the middle of the desert, and that in itself was quite a highlight and an achievement. But what came after that was extraordinary. The energy work that we did there.
It was unbelievable. And before we get into the energy work that we actually did, coming back was so much easier. I actually hopped up.
No, repeat, Bob, please.
I actually hopped up. Coming back after the energy work, I actually hopped on one leg up a sand dune with assistance, and I rolled down the other side.
Yeah, on the way out, we were going around sand dunes looking for, the hardest packed sand to get into where we wanted to be. On the way back, we almost just made a straight line for it. And the last bit, he went up and over a dune. So we didn't even, and it was easier somehow.
They were going to drag me, and I said, no, I think I can do it. The energy was I felt like Superman.
So how do you explain what we did out there then?
How most people would call what we did miraculous, but understanding what I understand now, I see it as thank you, Dee. She's not helping. She's laughing. There's no words.
So was it in fact a group at its essence, was it a group meditation that you were doing with an intention?
Oh boy, we didn't even get to. Oh well, goodness.
But
we did
so
that
much
before.
More.
We did that morning, and that was another. Oh God.
We did do something like that in the morning, and we set some intentions about what was going to take place when we went out into the dunes. And when we got into a circle out on the dunes, it looked, almost the moment I closed my eyes, 2 things happened. I saw the silhouettes of hundreds of beings all around us that had been waiting for us. The other thing was I felt this energy around my spine that I've never felt before, and it was so thick that I could barely sit up. And then it sat between the base of my neck and the base of my spine for a couple of minutes, and then it went up into my neck itself and up into my head. And when it did that, my head just dropped because it was so thick and so heavy, and it completely encased my spine. And it just kept pulsing and projecting, and it stayed with me until the next morning. Actually, it was still there when I woke up. Not as intense, but and it's slowly dissipated since then. But we each had our own experience during what what we did, and we set. You know how, I mean, Heather's always said this from the beginning. It only takes one. And I said it in the Giggle Fest. That's what that show is now referred to, the Giggle Fest. That we fear that us as a collective, just as in, along with all the thousands and thousands of other little collectives that are happening right now across the planet, are microcosms of the macro. And it only takes one to make that shift for all. So what my experience and what I feel I activated and cleared and kicked in for me, I know went out and is available to all. And the funny thing is I've actually had some just personal messages that have come back with people explaining what's been going on for them the last couple of days, and I know it's related. And it's the same with Bob, and it's the same with Bill, and it's the same with Brian and Dee and Heather and Vera and Katrina. Am I making sense? Is this making sense? Because words are so inadequate to explain.
So I guess the question people will be asking is what it is that you actually created as a group creation. What was it? A vortex, a portal?
Yes and yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And both of these things are tools. What did you do with them?
The tools, the artifacts, the Ark of the Covenant, or whatever it is we're supposed to be in Ethiopia hunting down.
Mm-hmm.
These things are all within. The physical artifacts that may or may not be buried in various places around the planet are external representations of the true artifacts from within. Now, you and I don't even know if I said this on air, but I know that I discussed it with you, and it's in my Journey to Morocco, Part 3, on my blog. I talked about there being something has been activated within me, and it's within my solar plexus, and it's my artifact, if you, for lack of a better word. That's why I have been completely incapable of explaining what's been going on with me for the last few weeks.
It was very Fifth Element. Yes.
Yes. Very Fifth Element-esque. Very good.
So did you all experience a different version, a different aspect of that energy that you created? And obviously Lisa's focused down into one particular part of her body and is obviously, sounds like it's possibly a permanent part of her energetics now. What about yourself, Bob? How did it manifest for you? Obviously it had an effect on your spine in terms of stimulating it.
I was given a new body, a new energetic body. That's the only way I can describe it. And I could physically feel it.
Would you say upgraded rather than new? Re-energizing your energetic body rather than
I guess you can say that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was something I've never felt before. I saw energy trails. I saw I can't even describe what they were. Patterns of light all around. And I knew that I had been here before and that I was with my greater aspect in that now place. It was there are no words. There really. I don't think you can.
Would it be simple to say you were connected to the all?
Yes.
I think that's a concept that will, point people in the direction of what you were feeling at that moment. I mean, how many of you were there? What was the number? 9 people. So there are 7 others who all experienced something as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, look, I have a feeling what we'll have to do is work our way through the folks who were there and get their descriptions of what they felt and saw and how it went.
Well, basically, I have to say that it was the finale. Now, the question is, it was our finale at least. And now it has the opportunity to be everybody's. And it's a matter of allowing it to just become visible.
It is already happening. I don't know how to tell you or how to describe it or how to get you to believe or whatever, but you're going to feel it because it's rippled out. What happened there in that desert has ramifications for everyone because it was a universal doing. And when we were there were so many. It was so... I don't want to use the word heavy, but the energy was so thick with consciousness, with being. Oh my God.
So what you're, I'll fucking paraphrase the fact that everything is energy. We are energy. And that the evolution that we're going through is leading us back to the point that you guys reached, but on a global scale. So what you're doing is way showing.
Yeah. And for people who are wondering what Bob's status is right now, he's improving every day, and what he's dealing with right now is simple muscle atrophy. He needs to build these muscles up again. The fact that he can feel them and they're sore from the work that he's done in itself is amazing, and every time he complains, we want to bitch slap him because... And yay! We all jump up and down and go, yay, you're in pain, you're hurting, awesome.
Yeah, it's terrible. I'm like, no,
there's no sympathy.
Oh, my legs hurt, and they're like, oh my, that's wonderful.
So there's no, he's not going to get anywhere complaining. So that's what he's dealing with. He's just got to build up his strength. These muscles haven't been used in 4 years. And he's doing it. He's doing it every day.
So the experience in the desert, that was during the day?
No. It's sunset.
Night.
So by the time we got out there, it was right on sunset.
Right. So you're actually pushing the wheelchair back across the dunes in the dark.
With my phone, with my light, with a torch on my phone, guiding us back. I was supposed to guide us back. Following the tracks that got us out there. Heather says she has night vision. But for whatever reason, I lost that and just went on my own path. And we got back really quickly, I have to say. But I'm sure Heather's going to take all the credit with her night vision.
Indeed. And is this the evening where you were watching the UFOs too?
Yeah, after we did the energy work, we just all laid back on the sand dunes and just looked up at the sky because you can imagine, it's pitch black out there. So it was a beautiful environment for watching the stars. And it was just, how do you explain that? It was talk about a light show.
Yeah.
Was there a moon? Was the moon out?
No, there was no moon.
So you had a really nice dark sky.
Mm-hmm. And start from one side to the other.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking 10, 20, 50 different ships moving around?
We stopped counting.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you've got 9 people going, there's one, there, look, no, there, left, no, look, another one.
Oh, wow, did you see that one?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah, it gets pointless to start counting at that point.
Yeah. So you actually stayed there for a night. You stayed one night in that location? 2 nights? And was the meditation on the event you're talking about, that was the second night?
We arrived there later in the afternoon. It was still daylight, but it was getting on to dusk.
Mm-hmm.
And we were greeted beautifully with song and dance and mint tea, and it was amazing. They gave us the greeting that they only give the king, apparently, when he turns up.
Well, that's interesting.
It was interesting.
Did you actually stay in their own houses, tents?
They have an area set aside for guests,
for
people to come and stay, and it's a series of tents that are made out of there's a cloth that they weave themselves out of camel and goat hair, and a bit of wood, and they put these tents together, and they're just amazing. And it just created this sort of courtyard area, and then with a big social tent at one end for us to hang out in. So we spent the night there. The first night there, they played this particular village is known for its music. They even actually hold a musical festival there on a regular basis, and tribal musicians come from all over. Did they say actually all over Africa or all over the world, guys?
All over the world.
All over the world. Once a year for a particular music festival, and the music this tribe make is called was it Ganawa? Ganawa. And they played music for a couple of hours, and the women sang songs, and we danced, and it was amazing. And then it was the next day that we did all the energy work, and Mark, although Dee piked when she got cold, and Heather slept out in the dunes that night to really ground it in. And after we came back in from doing our exercise, our energy work that night, they'd already stopped playing for the night. And we came in and gathered in the communal tent, and 3-4 of the guys who were just hanging out in the village wanted to come in and join us in the tent and just play casually. And whether they knew what they were doing or not, whether they were conscious of what they were doing or not, I don't know. But they were supporting and expanding the work that we'd done.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. It was pretty cool.
So did you have many conversations, direct conversations with the members of the tribe?
Well, one point you missed, Lisa. While we were doing the work, they began to drum in the village.
We could hear it in the distance.
Interesting. So how far from the village were you? Obviously not that far if you're pushing a wheelchair across the dunes.
Oh, a couple of 100 meters.
It's a long way. It's a long way up a sand dune it's a long way up one sand dune with a wheelchair. Let alone however many you guys went over.
I still can't believe we did it. I mean, visually, it was ridiculous. Can you imagine? We just looked like insane people.
Yeah, we do have video footage of that.
I was going to say, if you got some footage of it, because it sounds like one of those, crazy in the desert movies from the 50s. One of those sort of semi silly comedies the Americans used to make about such things.
Yeah.
And if you speed it up, it could be quite comical.
We've only got 15 minutes left of the show, guys, and we do have a caller. So, do you want to take him, Chris?
Yes, I shall bring the caller in. Okay, area code 303. What's your name? And please ask your question.
Hello, this is you from Boulder, Colorado. Hello to everybody. I'm the caller who called in.
Hello.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, Chris. Hi, Bob.
I remember
hi, everyone.
you.
Hi, you.
Hi,
yes.
Dee. Hi. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Heather. I just really appreciated what's been shared tonight. I've of course, been listening all along, and I was the one that talked so much about the Sudbury education model.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. What I wanted to mention tonight, in listening to Darryl speaking about Bashar, what he said at the very end, before he left, was just so poignant and succinct in my understanding of just universal intelligence. There was a caller, do you remember, Chris, last night, a woman who came on the show, One People, and she was speaking about a website she created. It's integratingdarkandlight.com.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think, yeah,
yes.
And I went to her site, and I was impressed with what she's put up, and I noticed she has some video clips, YouTube clips of Bashar speaking, and right after that, Abraham speaking through Esther Hicks. Abraham is just the name of universal intelligence, and I've been following and very, very much aware of Abraham's teachings for 20 years.
I love Abraham.
20 years, yeah. And so what I got real big when Darryl was almost finished speaking tonight was this total resonance synchronicity between the message, the basic main message that Abraham's been giving all along, and what Bashar is saying, and how it's all coming together, and what you all have experienced personally, individually out there, is a great boost. It's a great boost to all of the listeners, and I just appreciate it so much. Now, I have a question. The question is, I don't remember who said it. One of you did, and it could have been Heather, it could have been somebody, but this was about 2 months ago on one of your Monday or Tuesday calls. The author, Richard Gordon, who wrote Quantum Touch, The New Human. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that? Well, I went and went on Amazon and looked, and I saw 2.0, Quantum Touch 2.0, The New Human, Discovering and Becoming. And I decided, well, what the heck, I'll get that one. And so I'm just delighted with it. Delighted. It's all about love, and it's all about his discovery of not needing to do touching. And so it's all the same message that I've spoken of too, with Bashar and Abraham, and what you're talking about, and what Heather's brought forward in such a major way with Eternal Essence Embodied Without Limits. It's all about love. And so I just wanted to mention this to you, Bob, particularly if you haven't seen it yet. But Richard Gordon's new book, which just came out since January, Quantum Touch 2.0, The New Human, is so amazing.
Well, you know what? I mean, it's funny you put it like that, because love is what it was all about. Our love for Bob, our intense desire to see him heal and see him walk. To get Brian and Mark to physically do what they did takes a great deal of love.
Yes.
You don't haul a paralyzed man through the desert. hundreds of meters without some intense love and commitment. And everything that we did was based on love.
Yes.
I cannot describe what I feel for these people. I've just met them, but I've known them forever. It's
right. It's just another aspect of you, of us, and the demonstration that you all just did. You know, like you just said, with Mark and Brian and all of you together collectively doing this and helping you, Bob, getting there physically, all the little intricate details. It's just a perfect demonstration for us, all of
what
us.
Love can do.
Yes. I'm just so appreciative of that, and I just wanted to mention that book, 2.0, Quantum Touch 2.0, The New Human, by Richard Gordon. It's fabulous. And I was just I was just talking about it the other day. We watched The Living Matrix. Have you all seen that? The Living Matrix?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I was just mentioning this afterwards along with the discussion that went on. This was at the Unity Spiritual Center here in Boulder, and it's all about love, and each of us is doing it and can do it, and it's exactly what Darryl was mentioning that Bashar says. So, carry on.
Well,
we will.
Yep, thanks to you. You will put you back on hold again, but
Thank you.
Love to hear from you. It's great.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we do have one more caller, Lisa.
We do, and we also have a quick update from Mark. Maybe we should get through. Mark, are you still there?
Oh, I heard a groan.
You heard a groan. Mark, where are you? He's running. Okay.
He's sprinting.
Well, I just wanted to do that before we run out of time, and then we could always go over with our caller.
Hey, Lisa, what do you want to talk about from my perspective? I could give a quick update on what Caleb was saying with Project 13.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that now too?
Yes, please do that, because I'm sure there are people who are keen to hear that.
Yeah, we actually had a fairly reasonable update from Caleb yesterday on that, because I actually spoke to him before the show and put out where he's currently at. So unless something's changed since yesterday, we're probably pretty good on that. So you could cover something else if you wish.
Did you say that it was with Microsoft?
Cool news.
Yeah.
Cool news is he put it into Microsoft today, which he was pretty excited about.
Good. So that's the Microsoft Windows phone app that he's released.
Yeah, and iPhone will launch won't come out until the 1st of July. It was going to come out 1st of June, but they didn't make that. They just ended up getting actually just physically ill. I think for whatever reason that took out a big chunk of time. And it's just everything's new with this, and it's very, very exciting. It's incredible what Project 13 will do for our ability to communicate without being monitored for everything that we communicate. It's a huge deal, so that'll be a great tool. And the way it's going to roll out is Caleb's just going to launch it for at no cost for the probably first month or maybe 2 months. And then from then on, it'll be 1 unit of it, or $1 a month. But you can get in on it starting out. He's just going to launch it because he wants to get it started. It's at his expense to get it going. It's not anybody else paying for it. It's him doing it. And then when everything's up and rolling and he can accept, the payment gateway has been difficult to get set up apparently. But when it's all running, that'll then have Silverlight for Mac and PC. That'll probably take another at least a couple of weeks to set up. He's thinking roughly 2 weeks, but it's all new, so it does make sense for people to recognize that there's unforeseens when you're making something new. But he thinks it'll be roughly 2 weeks. I think that it's realistic to look at an iPhone app coming out July 1st. That's the app, iPhone app team is bringing that out then, and then also the Silverlight could be reasonably ready for that time frame. The IUVA exchange side of things is on a lot of people's minds. I was hoping to have more of a clear idea what to talk about today. My apologies, but I don't have total clarity on it. But I can say some things that I understand. Heather's trying to teach me things that she sees working with that, and I would say that it's very good news for all of us. The things are really changing, and we're looking at now having the ability to work with representation using our own value, not representation of our value, but our actual own value, and we become the creditors. So the gist of everything is that we're now making a new international means of exchange that's using our own value to back as us, our soul, and our own eternal essence as the backing. Not gold or silver metals, but our own eternal essence, and then we'll be making everything 1-to-1. So a total revalue of all currencies globally of 1-to-1. So if you everybody already does have. Heather was explaining to me everybody already does have $5 billion of value, plus another $5 billion if they've been damaged by the small number of people who've given damage over the past years with the monetary system. So really, everybody comes out with what you could say is $10 billion, but actually it's unlimited. And the reality is that we just need tools that we understand to use. One of them, which may not seem a big thing at first, is actually very significant, that will have contracts, and there's already been one done with Project 13 and Caleb, between Caleb and Heather's husband, that'll be a contract to back that Project 13 started, and it's not UCC filings. It's public, based on public notice, and it's using the our exchange and the I system of registry.
Okay.
Pardon?
Mark, you have about
lawful structure.
Yeah, Mark, you have about 30 seconds. Mark, you have about 30 seconds left.
Yeah, Chris, maybe the thing to do is to say, like, I'm open to having people ask. I'm kind of tired, and I'm doing an updates thing in Skype, which we can use if people want to add that. But next week we'll be talking about more of the actual tools and working on that this week with Heather to get the actual tools out of some tools started. And examples of how you can work with the new contract system. I'm sorry that I don't have more right now. I feel like it would be good if there was more.
We can go into some details next week, Mark. That'll be good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Chris.
But hang on, stay there for a second. Don't go anywhere. I just wanted to say to people who were listening at Blog Talk, we're about to lose the live feed, so we are going to go over by a few minutes, which you'll be able to get into the archive. But thank you very much for joining us, for those who we're about to lose. Okay, Mark.
Yeah.
You want to share anything about your experience over the last few days, from your perspective?
Well, I would say for me, okay, from my perspective would be, for me it was all about this whole trip for me personally was. Sorry, they have the thing talking to us. Just the experience of awakening. I came here for everyone is how I came here. I came here because I wanted to see some movement for everyone, and I worked with Heather to make that possible. And Heather was like it was an exchange and a working of, okay, let's bring everybody together and bring the new magnetism of this particular group into a physical proximity so that we could work on a new thing. And it was very productive. From my point of view, it was extremely productive in that I felt an awakening of the heart forces of the whole planet. I mean, it's something to feel. I really actually felt like there was a shift in myself relating to the work at hand and my understanding of what's possible. And from talking with Heather extensively over the time that I've been here, I'm very confident with her connections and working with her connections to empower people with so that people can have tools to access value and do stuff. I mean, really, it's really, for me, it's not enough to talk about stuff that happened for me personally right now. It was very significant for me personally, but what I felt was a movement for all of us, and I can see the mechanics of how this can work for unfolding for everyone, and that I wish that it was all happening last month. I would feel better that if it was, but the amount of things that have shifted are incredible. I feel that we're seeing an unraveling of incredible control systems, and that has been a long time in the establishing of those systems, and now unraveling it is very, very exciting for me to watch and to be a part of. So let me see if there's anything else that would be good to talk about. I think sorry, I thought you were talking to me, that's all. Yeah, so I'm actually really focused now on working on tools, and that's what I'm working with Heather on. I really hope for more of a release on that. The contracts are exceptionally good, and instead of working with the UCC filings, which is now archived and ended, it'll be working with a lawful contracts using notice, and we'll probably end up having some sort of a registry for that. But the internet itself is a place to notice things. Dee, are you wanting to say goodbye? Okay, here.
I'm just hopping on very quickly to say I've had about 3 hours sleep in the last 48 hours, and I'm going to go fall down now in a corner. And I'm just sending everyone lots and lots of love and saying, oh boy, are things ever exciting at the moment. So good night, everyone.
Good night, Dee.
Good night, Dee.
Okay. So maybe I could say a little bit more, but and then leave it at that for right now. The basic process of accessing value is something like you have value. We each have value because we are eternal essence embodied. We have value that we can access, and the trick is knowing how to do that and in a way that works, so that we can do the things that we want to do. And that's what is being worked on now. for those who are asking, I mean, I have a room where people are asking a lot of questions and in Skype, and that's understandable. I've been primarily focused on the process and just literally got back today from the work that we were doing, and I wasn't on the grid. It was very now it's going to be about the mechanics and getting it workable. If you take your own value and you back a certain amount of value in whatever currency you want to work in, or whether you're using the IUV exchange, it becomes a way of working with each other through energy exchange and lawful energy exchange. So if and now it's really just about making that workable. Project 13 will have that written into it. Now that we know more what we want Caleb to write, he'll add that in there. And until that happens, even just having, Heather was talking about it, even just having a spreadsheet on a website is a public registry of your value, and it's a public place where you can put your value and then exchange.
We seem to have lost that connection. Lisa, are you still there? No. Lost both connections, folks, so I'll just continue on for a moment until they're called back in. I do have one announcement, which I'll have to repeat next week because it didn't go out on the live stream. But Holly Tucker is actually, this is the on the IUV Exchange website, Holly Tucker is actually looking for contributing writers for an upcoming web segment called Nova Earth News. You'll work with an editor and media researcher to write stories focused on enlightened living, laughing, loving, playing, and imagining from people and communities around the globe. 1 or 2 original stories per week, approximately 600 words, capturing for viewers examples of expanded awareness through the doing of others. So whether it's science or technology, stewardship in action, Nova Earth News will highlight the growing unity and mindfulness of the One People through positive demonstrations. The objective for Nova Earth News is to raise the consciousness, to change the consciousness. So if you're passionate about that, please let the guys on the website know, just by confirming you've got time to actually do the work and that you're volunteering and submitting a sample. And I would do that through the contact website that I'm going to post onto the chat here, but I'll read it out in a moment. I'll just put it on the chat. And it is i-uv.com/home/volunteer. So that's a volunteer segment. Now, I've just lost the entire stream from the guys in Morocco, so I'm not sure exactly what is getting out and what is not. Wouldn't mind it if someone in the chat room could actually tell me whether my stream is still actually live or not. If anyone could pop that in there. Okay. Yes, we hear you. Okay, still here. That's good. Okay, what I'll do then, I've got a couple more phone calls. Let me just see what you can just. Yes, good. You can hear me. Excellent. Thanks very much for the feedback. Got a couple more phone calls which we'll take before we finish for the day. I'll try and get the others. Actually, I'll just try and get the others on again. See what we can do. While that's calling, I'll just speak to area code 646. Hello, area code 646. Hello. Could we have your name and your question?
Hello.
Hello, area code 646. You're live. Hello. Yes, we can hear you.
I'm 424. Are you talking to Andrea?
Well, I've got you on the board here, you're appearing as 646.
But
but
you're hearing Andrea?
You are Andrea, are you?
I have no idea why it came through as 646. It should be 424, but never mind.
No problem.
Hi, I called you yesterday.
It's Andrea,
and,
is it?
Yeah.
Hello again.
And hi. The question really got answered by Mark. What he was talking about feeling everyone's hearts opening. If you could get the guys back on the line from Morocco, here's what I really wanted to ask: that everybody in this whole movement has been knowing they were in Morocco and holding them in our thoughts and, sending heart energy. And I was wondering, number one, did they feel that supporting them? And number two, what did they feel, they spoke a little bit about this. Bob and Mark both spoke a little bit about it, but I just really wanted to ask the whole gang over there to speak more about how they felt the vortex and the portal openings and the magic that they did sort of, being for the whole planet.
Well, an aspect of that certainly came through in what they've said, and they'll actually be back. Certainly Lisa will be back next week, Mark will be back next week, and they won't be working at 2 a.m. So I think they'll be able to communicate a little more freely about what they actually experienced. We're both fairly overwhelmed by the whole thing somewhat as well.
Yeah.
But I certainly got that message from them that they felt what they were doing was rippling outwards. And if you're feeling something and imagining it, then actually, folks, it actually is real.
Yeah, so I know we were all creating that, and I just wanted to hear them speak it a little more and, put it out there and make it real for people who maybe didn't feel it quite so clearly.
Well, what I'll do is start a list of questions for next week.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool.
Okay, Andrea, well, I'll pop you on hold unless you have another question, and we'll take the last caller.
Everybody, love to the whole team. Keep sending angels, protection angels to everybody over there.
Yes, keep doing that, please. Yes.
Yeah.
Was available. I think they were sensing certainly there was a lot of beings around them when they were in the desert, and that's probably how it was manifesting. What you're suggesting is manifesting for them.
And the headache that I had when I got that the psychic attack yesterday, it went away within a total of 10 minutes. It was gone, and I was fine the rest of the day.
Yeah, look, that was quite extraordinary.
So thanks to everybody who sent me love and light. It worked. You guys are powerful more than you know.
Yeah. Look, one of the comments I've had from someone who's got experience with the teams that actually do that sort of negative energy work is that they're not that well trained a lot of the time, and they're not that expert at it, and that the combined weight of our intention would quite easily overwhelm them. And we saw it happen live yesterday. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and love is more powerful than fear.
Always.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrea. We'll hope to hear from you again sometime.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye for now. Okay, we have one last call. Hopefully the number will be accurate this time. Area code 509. You're live. Could we have your name and your question?
Hi, Chris. This is Sue Whitespy. Wow, I'm happy to get on the show with you. How are you hearing me?
Good to have you. Yeah, quite well. Your name is Sue?
She Glidespy. It's
okay.
That's the name a lot of friends call me. It's my medicine name. I'm also Heather. Another Heather. In Washington State also. And I have been following this since it, I started out with Brian leaking that interview with Poof, and then shortly after the information in Christmas time just was such a gift. And, of course, I didn't understand it all, but now it's gelling with me, and I'm seeing my gifts come full circle into assisting with what oneness is, and that's that we all play an integral piece in this, and we're all part of the puzzle, and it's coming into a fabulous scene that I think is going to be extraordinary. And I really didn't have a question. I just wanted to say, hey, Chris and everybody in Morocco, my thoughts have been with you, and you're in my prayers, and I'm so grateful for the work you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, look, it does really, Heather. It's not limited to questions. If you want to come in and just tell us what you're feeling, that's great.
Thanks.
That's because
great,
we really appreciate the support you guys give us, and this has been a long journey since last December, and really it's only the beginning. I mean, it might feel like things are all coming to a crescendo, but it's probably just the first of many crescendos.
Yes. All right. I'm ready with my surfboard, even though I don't know how to surf.
Exactly.
Now,
make sure you wax it.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, make sure you wax that surfboard.
Exactly. I will plug that I am working on a education piece that I want to help my local community start to understand how to see value. And I've been doing a little bit of writing, and I'm asking for everyone's input on this, even just commentaries, because pieces are going to come together that will help us teach others what this is about and make it through this shift. Because we're in oneness, everyone is a part of this, and I think understanding what I've just recently wrote about is survival and thrival, and how they're important pieces of our existence, and so many of us have been caught in the survival piece. And my second part's going to be coming out soon, and it's about what it looks like to thrive. And I know that movie really was inspiring, and it just sets it off for more ideas about what does it look like locally? What does it look like right here on the ground? How do we thrive? So I invite everyone to take a look at that.
Yeah, look, I do too. Once we've got to a stage where we've recognised what our value is, we've recognised what the system's been doing to deceive us about value, and we know what the solution is to it. It's not quite in our hands yet, but the knowing of the truth around it is the key thing to making it happen. And bringing that information to the community is a really important thing that we're going to have to do. If you look at the journey that we've taken, it's been a very short, sharp, intense exercise. And if you're someone that's been going down rabbit holes for years, as most of the audience here have been, you've taken a very, very long journey through a huge body of information, which the rest of the planet will have to go through in a very short, sharp period of time, and everyone will be needed to actually help those around them, exactly as you're doing. And if you could share your thoughts with others as you're doing, you're going to publish what you're doing on your website?
Yeah, I have a blog. It's GaiaDaughter@wordpress.com. That's GaiaDaughter.wordpress.com. GaiaDaughter.wordpress.com.
Yeah, and the actual discussion of value, what is value, where does it come from,
yes.
How do we access it, is in part it's philosophical, and it's something that people actually are responding to it really well. I find when I talk to people about what the value is, they really get it. And one of the ways I do this is actually you can put a $10 note on the table and say, $10 note, go and make me a coffee, and wait.
Yes.
Right, and just look at the note, and then turn around and ask whoever you're speaking to, well, perhaps you could go and make me a coffee. And the point is made. It's actually our doing where the value is. It's the expression of our energy is doing, which is where and how we generate the value. Not that hard a concept to get across. And once they get it, you can start to have a discussion of a representation of it, which is what the money is, and how we were drawn out of a bartering system into a representation system, and we're going back essentially to bartering. But interestingly enough, if you can agree on a representation of value in a very transparent fashion, there's nothing wrong with representations of value as long as you know that they are what they are, and don't actually elevate money to being the ultimate, expression of abundance in our society. It isn't. It's the goodwill that's the expression of abundance. So.
Excellent. Thank
please,
you, sir.
Please share. Please share. Okay.
Right.
I'll pop you back on hold and say thank you very much for everyone who's shared the show today. Again, it's been very interesting to have the stories from the guys in Morocco as to what actually happened. No doubt we'll hear more. We'll get more details, especially if we can get everybody back operating in their normal environments so they can do it without trying to stay awake. It's very difficult working across the planet with our difference in time zones, and I look forward to a time when the time zones actually aren't required anymore. So everyone have a great week. Please join us next week on the One People Show and on the Collective Imagination, and hope you have a great week, and we'll see you then.